Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick, and welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening Woman. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. Who is the awakening woman? She is a woman who's seeking a greater possibility in her reality and looking for solutions. She knows being awakened is not a lofty ideal, but a necessity. If she can transform herself, she can change the world. Her conversations will introduce you to talented women who speak to your spirituality, sensuality, and soul. They share their stories and explain how they are in service to the world. So let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. My guest this week on Her Conversations is Stephanie Perry. She is a full-time traveller and writer. She runs her own blog, Vaycarious, and she coaches people on how to travel full-time. She chose to follow her desire to travel at the age of 41, and that would be when most people would feel that it was too late to do that. And during our conversation, we talk about what drew her to travel full-time, the way she supports herself, and the real cost. We also discuss traveling as a woman of colour, so the misconceptions, the reactions, and even hair care. And on a deeper note, she also talks about what she's learnt about humanity after visiting so many different countries. So as always, I begin each episode by asking my guests, Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel at your most her?
I feel at my most her when I'm doing something for someone else. It's easy for me to get locked into my own world and do, and just live for me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I reach out to someone else, especially when I reach out and not, it's not something that I'm obligated to do, but when I reach out to someone else and reach out to help them in any way that I can, I feel like I am me, like I'm being the person that I am designed to be. It's not my default state. It's a state right now that I have to work at, but I'm working on making that my default state, a state where I can and stay and not come in and out,
Perfect. Great stuff. And can you tell me a bit more about yourself? Like, how did you come to be the almost full-time? Are you full-time traveling now? Yeah.
I'm traveling full-time now. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was 41, I was working as a hospital pharmacy technician, and I quit my job to travel for a year. I saved up some money and decided I was going to travel for a year because I had seen my parents wait until retirement to travel, and it was just, physically challenging. Somebody his knee hurts, her hip hurts, So I thought I really love traveling. I really love the experience of just seeing other places, seeing new places. Even sometimes it's about the adventure, and sometimes it's about just being there, just living there, So I decided to quit my job and travel for a year. I went back home after the money was out, went back to work, got a job immediately and went back to work. But I just knew that that wasn't the life that I was made to live. It wasn't my life. I felt like I was just handling obligations that other people had handed to me. You have to pay this mortgage, and you have to have this type of job, and you have to, but that wasn't the life that I was made to live. So then I did it again. I quit my job again, and I went out traveling. Now I travel full time, and I pay for it by house sitting, so I get free accommodation. And then I work as a freelance writer, so I can do work online, help clients online without having to be, geographically close to them.
Mm. And where was the first place that you went to when you traveled? What was your first destination, and why did you choose that one?
I went to Thailand. I saw some pictures online of the Loy Krathong festival. It's a lantern festival. They light lanterns and send them up into the sky. And then they do a water lantern festival as well. They light lanterns in the water and send them off. And I just knew I wanted to be there. I just knew I wanted to see that. So I made that my first stop. And it was Thailand in itself was amazing. I moved from south to north. Chiang Mai was my last place in Thailand, and that's where the festival happens every fall. And it was just a wonderful experience. It was a wonderful way to start off this kind of travel. Because if you're traveling like this long term, you don't really know what to expect in the beginning. You don't even know if you're going to like it. You don't know if it's going to be too much for you, too hard, too lonely. But Thailand was a great way to welcome me into this lifestyle. There were a lot of other travelers out there that I got to meet while I was going around from place to place, and just meeting local people, just meeting people every day who were warm and friendly and helpful and welcoming and seemed to understand what I was doing, even more than people back home who were like, you're doing what? You're going where? Why are you doing that? When I got to Thailand, I found people who were like, yes, of course, that's what you're doing. Of course, that's what people do here. So it was a great way to get started.
Good for you. And you say when you went back, how long did you stay in that job before you knew that you couldn't do that kind of life anymore?
On my 90-day work, so I started the job, and then they were like, okay, so you have a 90-day probationary period, and then after 90 days, we'll sit down and talk about how it's going. On my 90-day evaluation, I gave them 2 weeks notice. Like I just couldn't stay. I couldn't do it. I liked the job. And the people were fine and the pay was fine and, it was okay, but it just wasn't my life. So I left and went to South Africa and did a nice solo road trip through South Africa. Thanks to the job, thanks to the money that I had made over those 90 days from the job.
And how can you explain what it is that you felt like? I have an idea what it might be, but in terms of coming back from your first trip and trying to slot in almost to the old routine, how did you actually feel different? I know you said you knew it didn't fit, but what was it about it that just made you really feel that this is not my life anymore?
I felt really confined. Is the best way I can put it. Because when I was traveling and when I am traveling, I feel free. I feel free. And I went back home and I felt really confined. You have this schedule, and if you want to go somewhere, you take days off. You have to request it this far in advance, and then we can say yes or no. So I felt really like my freedom was stripped away. Like I had had a taste of freedom, and then it was just stripped away from me. And then I also just felt like I was an imposter, like I had the me who was out doing things, was me. And then I had to come back in and put on this uniform of this employee who works at this hospital, So it just felt like I was playing a role instead of actually living, I didn't feel, it was a feeling that I hadn't felt before I left. Before I left, I was fine with, requesting vacation in advance and taking, 2 weeks maximum at a time and, all that. But once I'd been out for a year and traveling and experiencing new things, I realized that I just wasn't the same. But I was trying to slip a new person into my old life, and it just didn't fit anymore.
I hear every single thing that you're saying there. Only I didn't turn it around in 3 months. Like my first long trip away was 2 years ago, or like this month, 2 years ago, and I went to India for a month, and I did a month's worth of yoga teacher training there. And then if I look back and just assess where my mind has been and how I felt in the year and a half since I came back from that trip, almost a year and a half that I came back from that trip, and trying to sit back into my old routine, it just wasn't. Nothing really worked out, and especially last year it just got to the height of it's really not happening, and things actually started to fall apart by themselves actually,
right.
As opposed to doing it because I just thought, I've been on this trip and I'll come back and I'll do this, and then I'll I didn't even plan to go and do another long trip. It was more about, I know that I want to spend a Christmas away from the UK.
Okay.
So it hadn't even been a long one, but having, and I hear what you're saying as well, having spent time away where I meet travelers every day. Some people who are just taking a couple of months out, others who have not lived in their home country for like 10, 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that they say is exactly the same as you're saying, in terms of when you're out and you meet other travelers, they get it. When you're back where you've followed the path that has been laid out for everybody, they don't get it.
No.
It's literally black and white like that. There's like no grey area in between. And there's this kind of fallacy that travel is expensive as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make it as expensive as you want to be if you want to. But I think the mistake that people make when they're trying to calculate what travel will cost them is they use their holiday expenses, like how much they would spend if they stayed in a hotel on a holiday, and how much they would spend on food if they went on holiday. Whereas when you travel and you sit in a place, you kind of find like everyday expenses, and also you want to get to know the level of living that people have on a day-to-day basis, so you can actually get a feel for the place, as opposed to the staged area of the tourist area in different areas. I mean, you've found a way to travel and let it sustain you. Could you explain how you've managed to do that?
You're exactly right that people think that travel long-term is so expensive that they don't even consider it as an option. But thankfully, I've found some ways, because other people told me about them, I found some ways to cut back. I went to, on my first year, the first gap year that I took, the grown-up gap year, I did some volunteering in exchange for free room and board. That was a good experience, but it wasn't, I did 3 volunteer stays, and I booked those through a site called workaway.info, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 3 experiences. One was great, one was terrible, and one was just okay. And so then I volunteered for short periods of time in exchange for a free place to stay. And then I found house sitting, and it's been a perfect match for me. You can house sit for short periods of time. You can house sit. I've seen house sits posted for 6 months to a year at a time. So it varies in length. You can choose what types of house sits you want to do, and if you want to take care of pets or not. But it's been a wonderful way to get around, to see the world. I house sat for 6 months in Mexico last summer and autumn. And now I'm in London for at least 2 months. I'm booked for 2 months, and I'm trying to go for 3. And so we'll see how that goes. But it's been just a great way. And I hope I'm like a good ambassador for house sitting, because once I found it, it changed everything. Now I don't feel like I need to go back home, because even though I do work online, I do make some money online. I don't make enough money to stay in London for 3 months without house sitting. If I needed to pay for my own place to stay, I would only be here for a few weeks at a time, or a few days at a time. But because I'm house sitting, because I don't have to pay for a place to stay, it's just opened it up. I get to experience things more, and I don't have to feel rushed and do, a quick drive-by of a place. I get to stay in, I get to meet people, go to events. I house sat in Northern California, December and January, and I went to a couple of events and made new friends. And that's something that doesn't generally happen when you're in a place just for a short time on vacation. So house sitting's been a great new discovery for me, like within the past 3 years or so. But I'm a big fan. I recommend it. Like, I just totally recommend it to anybody who wants to see a place for a while and doesn't want to feel like they have to spend, drain their savings just to visit a new place.
And you talk about the adult gap year, which is your business, the way that you make money, right? How did you start that? What does it offer other people?
My blog is vaycarious.com, and I started that primarily as a way to just show people where I was, just to show people I'm here now, I'm in Thailand this month, I'm in Vietnam this month, I'm in the Philippines, just a way to share pictures and experiences. And people started asking me questions. How do I do this? Which is, like you said, when you go back home, people just don't understand, and they just, don't get it. But I'm finding that the more I share what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, the more other people start to say, you know what, I've been thinking about the same thing. I just didn't know how to do it. So it's good to have platforms like yours, that let people see that it's a possibility. I'm just a regular person. I'm not a lottery winner or anything. And so I go back. I went back and started the blog after I went home from my trip. And then I started helping people plan their gap years after that. So it's just started with people reaching out to me through the blog and through social media. And it's grown from there. My goal is just, if you want to take a year from your job to travel, I just want you to know how, I don't want to say easy, but how easy it can be, and how many ways there are to do it, how creatively people are solving this puzzle, because there are people who are doing it different ways. There are people who are actually working remotely while they travel. There are people like me who just save up money before they go and then they go. There are people who do a mix of things like that, people who are house sitting and, doing a lot of different things to make this work for them, so that they don't have to keep saying, I wish I had done that. They can say, I did it.
Yeah, that's the sentence there. I wish I had, because if you ever have that, there's nothing that you can do. Regret is a great inspiration for me. So I don't ever want that to be part of my vocabulary on anything. I mean, there are things that I wish I'd done already, but I realize that now that I've made a move to do something like this, then I can fit those things in, really. I think I want to ask you, actually, what have you learned about yourself in the years that you've started to travel?
So much. I've learned some basic, some like superficial things. I've learned that I can keep my cool, and I don't, even when I'm afraid, I don't feel like it has to stop me. I think that's probably the biggest lesson, honestly. I said it was superficial, but it's probably the biggest lesson. I learned when I was in the Army, in my early 20s, that was something that they trained us on. They drilled into us. Fear is not the end of it. You're not, the courage is not the opposite of fear. It's not like either you're brave or you're afraid. It's you're afraid and you're brave. Courage is just the step after fear. And I've learned from this experience that I'm able to put that into practice. And I'm so proud of that. Like, I really do. I feel like it's such a big accomplishment that I can feel the fear and do it anyway. Some of the stuff that I'm afraid of even comes true. Sometimes it actually happens. My fear before I left on my gap year, my fears were that I would run out of money and that I would just hate it. What if I got out and I just hated it? Well, I did run out of money. I traveled for 12 months and I came home flat broke. Like, I had like $30 to my name. I had to come home and hurry up and make some cash. So I did run out of money. And there were days when I didn't like it. Some days I was just exhausted. You have to make a 1,000 decisions every day when you're in a new place, because nothing is familiar, nothing is comfortable. You don't even know where to get coffee, and so it's tiring sometimes, and it's draining sometimes. As exhilarating as it is, it's also tiring at times, and so I did hate it sometimes. And the things that I feared the most came true. And I still had an amazing experience. It was still wonderful. And I still left and did it again. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I learned about myself, is that I'm okay feeling that fear and still pressing on, still doing it if it's a priority to me. And I also learned that I'm less of a loner than I thought. I spend a lot of time alone, and I'm really, really comfortable spending a lot of time alone. But I've learned to make time to meet new people and make time to go out and extend myself to other people. And that's been an amazing lesson for me, that I don't have to just pigeonhole myself as a loner. People, I'm an introvert, or I'm a this, or I'm that. I don't have to feel that that's the end all for me. I can take I can turn myself into an extrovert for a day if I feel like it. And that's been a good lesson too, that I don't have to be one thing all the time.
Great. I like that. I hear, I resonate with like everything that you say there as well. The fact that your senses have to be on all the time. Like you said, you don't know, things aren't just down the local, the local shop where you can just go and buy, and where you're gonna get certain things. Even I'm here in Bali, and I'm thinking, it took me a while to work out where to get a toasted sandwich. It might sound like a really bizarre thing, but like, I don't know if you ever get this feeling like you're in an area, you just eat the local food, and then there'll be one morning you wake up and you'll be like, I can't eat that, and you just want something that reminds you of home. And I had it a couple of weeks ago where I woke up one Sunday of all days, and I just thought, I need to eat a pizza today. I need to eat a pizza that is like the cheesiest pizza ever. And I managed to find one. It was quite good as well, because it was just like no noodles, no tempeh, no tofu today, if you don't mind. Also, what I wanted to ask you is, what have you learnt? And this is kind of a heavier question. What have you learnt about humanity on your travels?
I love this question. When I told people that I was going, the people who reacted out of fear, it was always about how I was putting myself in danger by being among strangers. My dad, who was in the Marine Corps when he was younger, he said to me, I told him I was going to Thailand, Vietnam, the Philippines. He said, I've been to those countries. They're very dangerous places. Now, he was there during war, right? So he's got a totally different perspective. But I mean, the conversations that I had with just a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people, were about how dangerous it is, how people will mistreat you. I'm Black, I'm a woman. It's just very dangerous. I've had people who were even immigrants to the US, people who had lived in some of these countries that I visited, tell me, oh, it's going to be, people are not going to treat you well because you're a Black woman and you're traveling the world on your own. So, like I said about feeling the fear and doing it anyway, I went out anyway. And what I found is that people will help you 1,000 times more than they will try to hurt you. I've had people help me. I've had a woman walk out of her home. I was walking in Brazil, and I decided to not go the way that the map told me to go I was going to visit a church, like a cathedral or a church. And I decided I wasn't going the way the map said. I was just going to take a shortcut. And I walked through this neighborhood, and a woman walked out of her home, down the steps, walked up to me and said to me in English, "This is a very bad neighborhood." And she took my hand and she walked me out to the place where I should have been walking. And she said, "Go this way instead." I had a woman in the Philippines sit with me at a bus station to make sure that I got on the right bus. She was just waiting for her husband to get off work, who worked at the bus station. And she sat with me the entire time to help me get off the bus. I've had, when I wanted to snorkel and I was tired and I'm not a strong swimmer, I had the person who worked on the boat say, just grab onto this flotation device and I'll pull you around. I'll drag you around because I don't want you to miss this last stop on this excursion on this boat. I want you to see this coral. So don't stay on the boat. Come, I'll pull you around. I mean, people have been extremely kind to me. For no reason, to not get anything from me, just because. And so I've really learned that people will extend themselves to you if you're open to it. And I've learned to make an effort then to make sure that I'm extending myself to other people, because like I said, it's really easy for me to just live in my own head and just live for me. It's just really, that's where I had been for so many years. But they've shown me how to just open yourself up, and you never know what you're going to experience. You never know how wonderful other people are going to be until you open yourself up to them. Because I could have very easily said to that woman, "Don't touch me, get away from me, don't help me." the women in Brazil or the person on the boat. I could have been like, oh no, don't even talk to me. You work on a boat. Why are you talking to me? Instead, I sat there and listened to people and let them be a good guide to me at, when I needed it, and show me some amazing, beautiful things that I would never have seen. I've had people just tell me a simple, like, go down this street. Or one time I was in the Philippines and a lady said, are you going to visit this particular island? And I said, no, Camotes. I said, no, I've never heard of it. And I was right in Cebu. And she said, just go to the ferry tomorrow, get on that island, go to Camotes for a couple of days. And I can't tell you how beautiful that little island is. I mean, the whitest sand, the bluest water, no crowds. It was just amazing. And so I've learned to trust people. I know that travel alone is dangerous, and travel alone as a woman is dangerous. I mean, I shouldn't say is dangerous, or has its dangers. But life has its dangers. And I really don't want people to not go just because of that fear of the danger, fear of people. I don't know I don't have a big picture of why humanity was created, right? But I know that we were not created to be afraid of each other. Like, that's definitely not the answer. We're not here to fear each other and to wall each other off and to isolate ourselves. And so traveling has been a wonderful way for me to open up, to get out of my me mind, and to open myself up to other people. And man, have they really shown up for me.
It's true, isn't it? Yeah, the thought of travel being a precarious thing. I mean, I've not gone off into the jungle on my own or anything like that, so I'm not doing like major dangerous terrain or anything like that at the moment. But my thought, and I heard the same things as well. You're a woman, and also you're a woman of color traveling on your own. It's going to be dangerous. And my thought was, well, if anything happens and I feel that I'm in danger, there's going to be like a police force, or there's going to be the embassy. If things get horrible, then I'll find a way out of it, and I'll scream, I'll cry, I'll make the noise. But I hear exactly the same thing that I can corroborate with you, just saying people will extend themselves, and most of the time, the majority of people on the face of the planet just want to have a happy life. and want to, like you say, extend themselves and make sure that other people are being helped, because that's how we experience life at its best, really, is by helping other people, like you said at the beginning. And you find that even if you don't speak the language, a smile gets you loads of things. People communicate on a small level, and it brings so much to you. Where have you been so far? If you can just open up about some of the countries you've been to.
Sure. I'm from the United States, but I haven't done a lot of like the Caribbean here in the US. I've gone farther away. I started traveling far away from home first. So I've been to a lot of Southeast Asia, Vietnam and Thailand, Cambodia, the Philippines, Indonesia, including Bali. I've been to Australia. I spent a couple of months in Australia because during my gap year, I got so hot. It was so hot in Cambodia that I was like, I don't care. I'm going to I wasn't even planning to go to Australia. I'm like, I'm buying a ticket. I'm going to Australia because it was their wintertime. Like, I need to cool off just for a little while. I've been to, because I was traveling on such a tight budget, I focused mainly on the most inexpensive places. So I've been to Budapest. I've been to Hungary, actually, a couple parts of Hungary, and Serbia. And I've been to Portugal, which is amazing. I've been to Spain and Portugal. Portugal is a wonderful place where I could see myself settling down if I were to stay still for a while. That's, I think, where I would choose. And then I most recently spent 6 months in Mexico, in a few different states, Jalisco, Guanajuato, and Nayarit, a few different states in Mexico. And that was such an amazing time. My mom came to visit me actually in Mexico, and she's like, are we going back next winter? And I said, okay, sure. Let's do it, because Mexico is wonderful. It's a great combination of good food, good weather, good people. It's a good cost of living, wonderful place to visit. And then I've been to Brazil, Costa Rica, just a little bit, not very much in Central and South America so far, but that's next. That's what I think will be next for my next on my list.
Great. Okay.
And South Africa, I don't want to forget South Africa. South Africa was a great last minute decision. And like I said, I took a nice road trip through South Africa and it blew my mind. It blew me away. I didn't have a lot of expectations about what it would look like outside of the cities. But driving on a nice road trip through South Africa up into the mountains and around the coast was beautiful, amazing trip.
Yeah, I've seen some of the landscape. I've never been there, but I know I used to work with a friend years ago we worked in hospitality, so you can imagine what that was like. And she was Spanish, and when we worked in London together, and then she went to South Africa for a trip, and I think she went there only for 3 weeks or something. It was just like a holiday. And then she came back and grabbed her stuff and moved there. She was just like, she's like, that's it, I'm gone. And she's been there ever since. So we just kind of communicate via social media now. But
you have to go visit.
Yeah, I can see that it's just the views of it. I know I won't be able to understand the scope of it until I'm actually in the center of it and then kind of experiencing the vastness of it, because where she is, it looks totally beautiful. Now, you were talking about finding a base. When you're moving around all of these different countries, each of them has got a different energy. Have you felt one where you think I could stay here maybe a year, 2 years, like that feels more of a base to you than maybe where your home is? Or have you not felt the need to try and discern where that might be?
I haven't been looking for a place for a base yet, because there's still some hopping around that I want to do. But when I got to Portugal, I just felt so relieved. I don't know if that sounds weird, but after I had been to so many places that were more challenging to visit, Vietnam and Cambodia, when I got to Portugal, it was a good combination of familiar and unfamiliar, and so it's just beautiful, it's coastline. I'm from Delaware. I'm from the East Coast of the United States. And so we have beaches. I'm used to being able to always see the water. No, but like I'm used to being able to see the water whenever I feel like it and eating a ton of seafood. Mm-hmm. And so Portugal was really familiar in that way, but their beaches are gorgeous. I mean, nothing like Delaware beaches. And the people were warm and, not overly friendly to me, but not rude to me or anything. And then there were people who looked like me there, so I didn't stand out. In a lot of Asia, when I'm outdoors, there's somebody who's taking my picture because I look so, they see me and they're like, oh, I've not seen this before. I need to take a picture of this, But in Portugal, I'm no big deal. I look like, a good portion of the population. Yeah, so it was good. And then again, I like good weather. I like a lot of sun, and it just fit. I felt really comfortable there. It's not a place where I didn't make friends while I was there. And I think if I had made friends there, I probably would not have left, but I just, because, I didn't do a lot of, getting to know local people there. But I really feel like if I took some time and spent some time there and made an effort to get to know people there, like I have in other places, I think I would want to stay there. It seemed that wonderful to me. Also, Mexico, the town that I spent most of my time in Mexico has, has a decent amount of retired people from the US and Canada. So they have a lot of the comforts of home, which, really feels good after you've been traveling around for a long time. So they have some things that I'm familiar with, and then they just have some things that are totally Mexico. And so you get, kind of the best of both worlds. And so that was a nice experience too. And that's why my mom had such a good time, because she didn't have to, it wasn't a struggle being there. And, but we still got to eat, a lot of Mexican food, a lot of churros. And so we got the good Mexican experience. And then when we wanted some familiar things, we could find those too. So that was a good place to visit. But I haven't spent a lot of time thinking yet about where I would want to stay long term. But I think that's something that's coming. Are you looking to stay in Southeast Asia for a while, or?
Do you know what? I don't know. I'm probably at the early stages of things, and I feel like I'm still a newbie traveler, even though I've done a longer trip before. I went back and then I came out here, and I actually extended because I was due to go back, or the first round of my visa ended in January. So my return ticket that I'd booked was a month ago, 17th of January, and I didn't go back just because I didn't feel ready to go back. I knew that I hadn't got to that place in myself. There was one, I just needed to relax into a certain space, and also I wasn't ready to go back to the UK in January. I knew what it was going to be about. It's January is going to be it's going to be cold. It's also the first month after Christmas, so a lot of people are spent out and they're going to be unhappy. And it's just like I've done enough years of that cycle to know where people are mentally, and I didn't want to go back into that. So it was just for me to stay out here and really start to build up my online work so that I could stay out here longer. And I just stayed. I really wanted to explore a little bit more of different sides of just a bird, really. So where I'm staying now is in a different spot, and then I'm also looking to then move and stay in in an area that's more populated by expats, and kind of get to know the expat community a little bit more as well, because I've started to meet a few people. And I've gone for a walk around those areas, and it's just like, okay, this feels a little bit better. Not the place that I'm not staying isn't good, but there's just something about that area that just feels a little bit more homely, that I could see myself staying longer just because it's got something about it. Where the other places that I've stayed in, the different areas have always felt kind of temporary because there are certain things that just weren't accessible. Or just like immediately convenient, it would be like another 10-minute kind of scooter ride or something like that. So I'm potentially staying out a bit longer. It's a question that I kind of run through my mind like every couple of days of like, am I going back? At the moment, I don't know. I don't feel any great call to go back. It's just, there are other places that I want to do. There are things that I want to do that are in different countries that happen at different points in this year. And it would make more sense for me to stay in a place where my living expenses are super low in comparison to London, so that it's not a stretch for me to travel again. Because when you're living in an expensive environment, as I'm sure you'll know, it just requires so much more of your resources, depending on what your income level is like, to then pick up and go again, especially if you've got a property there or something like that, where you're here, where your living expenses are low, then it's just, you just buy another ticket and you just go. And then even if you're going into an area where you're going to have to pay 2 or 3 times more for your accommodation, it doesn't feel so much of a stretch because you're doing it for a shorter period of time maybe. So at the moment, I don't know. There are other countries that I want to visit. So it may be that I'll spend this year out just traveling around. There's some study that I want to do that's happening in different countries as well. So it'll make it just easier and doable, and it'll just be an interesting year, I think, at least. I keep thinking about a base, and I think that's just something that stems from me throughout my life anyway. I've always wanted to try and find a base, and I've always been quite temporary in where I lived. Even when I just lived in the UK, even when I just lived in London, there was never one place that I stayed for more than maybe a couple of years before I kind of packed up and moved again and packed up and moved again. So there's always been that element of moving around in me. But I would like to have somewhere that would be a base even if I wasn't there. And I've met a couple of people who've got places in like Chiang Mai is one woman that I was speaking to, and she sublets that when she goes out, and she's sublet it for the past few months so that she's then traveling again. So there's different ways of working it and different ways of moving around. So I'm still feeling it out. I still don't know. One of the misconceptions about travel is that you're just on this extended holiday.
Yeah. No, it's so different now. I know people who, you mentioned Chiang Mai. I know people who use Chiang Mai as a base
Mm,
and stay there for a few months and then travel for a few months and then go back for a few months. It's so easy to get around, to get from place to place for one, and it's so easy to work from
hmm
these places. You would think it would be more, you know, you think it would be difficult, but it's so easy. There are so many places set up for you. You can get a temporary office, or you can get, you work from from the home that you're renting. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good to have options, and being in Southeast Asia, there are options everywhere you turn. You don't even have to really make a decision. You could just be someplace and work from there. Then, have
Yeah.
someone pop up and say, "Oh, I'm going to Kuala Lumpur. Do you want to come?" And you can say, "Sure, I'm going."
It
Yeah.
is. It's really like that, especially when, with visa requirements and everything as well. You kind of go and just visit somewhere completely different, more so than you probably would do if you were in your home country. Even though I lived in the UK, and Europe was like just literally a train ride away, so there was really no excuse to not do that kind of thing. But when you've got like a full-time life, it's still something about finding that spot and then going on holiday, and as opposed to, it's like a lot of people here in Ubud or in Bali in particular, when it's the rainy season, just pack up and go somewhere else for a few months. And there are whole families out here as well. That's another thing as well. It's like, I think people think, well, I've got my children and I can't do that, but there are so many people that I'm meeting that have families, and not just one baby. They've got like two school age children who are being schooled out here and are just living a completely different life, and then raising these real international children, and living an international life. It kind of brings a perspective on the world, and you realize how without travel things can get very short-sighted and narrow without you even realizing it.
Yeah. When I was 41, I left, and I was thinking, before I left, I was thinking, I don't have a family of my own. Oh, boo hoo, this is
Mm-hmm.
so sad. And so I thought, well, let me take advantage of that, turn some lemons into lemonade and go ahead and travel, because that's something that I wouldn't be able to do if I had small children. But it turns out when I got out on the road, I saw that it is something that people do with small children. I'm so, so happy for those kids,
Yeah.
because they're getting to see the world and experience new things and pick up languages and, all kinds of stuff that so many people dream of, so many adults dream of, and
Yeah.
they're just doing it, just at 4 years old. So yeah, it's definitely something that if you have a family, it doesn't have to be, oh, I'll wait till my kids go to college type of situation. This is a
Mm.
great time to travel. No matter how old your kids are, it's probably the right time.
Yeah, it's probably easier because the kids are more adaptable. But then, kids are adaptable, I feel, at any point in time. But meeting people with like a couple of kids, like, and thinking nothing of it, and they just kind of get up and move, and it's a beautiful thing to see, actually. And you mentioned languages. How are you on your languages? How many do you speak?
I, because I just spent 6 months in Mexico, I picked up, or I studied Spanish in school.
Mm.
Yeah, so I studied Spanish for years in school. And then in Mexico, I picked up a good conversational level of fluency, I guess, or, but for the most part, I don't learn a language when I go somewhere. I try to learn a few words. For example, when I went to Thailand, I learned, hello and thank you, and then I learned the word delicious, which is aroy, which I recommend that you learn. After that experience, I learned to always find out what is the word for delicious, because if you're in a restaurant and you tell them that this is delicious, they might give you a free dessert if you can say it in their language. That's something that I learned in Thailand. Always tell them it's aroy, and you might get a free mango sticky rice, perhaps. But
Mm.
I'm not. But I don't make an effort. Honestly, I don't make an effort to really learn um, the language when I get somewhere. I might pick up a word here or there. and learn the basics, how to learn the word for bathroom or toilet. But it's not something that I do, but I have signed up to volunteer with an organization where I will help people learn English in Spain, so I've signed up. So that's coming up. That's not something I've done yet, but it's something that's coming up for me in the summer. But it's just so easy when you speak English to travel, because that's the language that is used in tourism. So I've been spoiled by that. But like I said, I did work on Spanish a lot in Mexico. And my mom, who is going back, we're going back to Mexico later, she's now learning Spanish too. So that's been helpful. So I don't have to translate for her all the time.
And Spanish is kind of an easy one to learn, actually. I found it as when I did it at school, and I did French and Spanish is the one that I can dip in and out of, and I keep trying to remind myself that I'm learning Spanish. I've got like an app on my phone that kind of updates me on things, and just getting up to date with it. And I found it relatively easy to learn, and then also as a result of that, then it makes Portuguese kind of understandable.
That's right.
So right. They're kind of there's a synergy between the two. But there's part of me that would like to live somewhere and immerse myself in a language and actually properly get to know it. Probably the easiest one would be to get Spanish, because I'd be able to pick Spanish up. I'd be able to start having conversations relatively easily, even if they were kind of like stuttered couple of words every now and again. But I'd be able to pick it up and get it easily. But I can sit in the presence of either Portuguese or Spanish and understand what they're talking about, even if I have to reply in kind of like broken Spanish, broken English. Right. To get that. You spoke about being a woman of colour travelling. What has been your experience as a woman of colour travelling in terms of how people receive you, how people back home thought what you were doing, and what it's opened up for you in terms of just seeing the world?
Because I joined a few online communities where there are other traveling women of color, it made the transition or the move out a lot easier. I felt like, I have some other women to tell me about what their experiences have been, and so I kind of know what to expect. And it's been good. I haven't had negative experiences. I haven't had people mistreat me. Like I said, the most I've had is there are days when I, would walk outside in, the Philippines or Cambodia, and there'd be a bus full of tourists taking my picture. But other than that, and that's not something that really worried me too much. But other than that, I haven't felt mistreated. Being, like I said, being an English speaker, a native English speaker, being from the US or Canada or the UK, people treat you better, right? So you get this privilege. So this is the first time, being a woman of color, that I've been able to fully take advantage of the privilege of being American. Outside of the US, I am viewed as American. In the US, I'm viewed as Black, not necessarily as an American. But traveling, I get treated as an American. My dollars are American dollars, my language is American, my clothes are American, and so I'm just American. So it's an unusual way, but it's a way to experience privilege that I hadn't experienced before. It also means that when you see other women of color, you become friends with them pretty easily when you're traveling. I've made a lot of friends just by walking past them on the street, or riding my bicycle and having them flag me down because they see me coming, You become like part of this community, just because you're another woman of color traveling in a place, in a foreign place. So that's been a fun experience. I've made quite a few like friends, real friends, just because, they saw me. I walked past them and we stopped and we had a conversation. Or, I was staying in the same hostel or hotel as them. We stopped and chatted. So that's been a good experience, something I totally didn't expect. I've also done some dating. If you're interested in that and you're a woman of color, we're pretty much in demand in a lot of places. So that's been been fun. So that's been an unusual experience, something else that I didn't expect. But it's definitely there have been more pros than cons. I wouldn't say, oh, don't go to this place, don't go to that place. I haven't had an experience where I would say, if you're Black, don't go here. If you're a woman of color, don't go here. Or if you're a single female, don't go here. I have not had those experiences, thank God. So it's been all good. It's been all good for me so far.
Great. That's good to hear. There's a couple of questions that I want to ask you actually relating to that. The first one is on a super, super practical level. What do you do with your hair? Simply because I took my extensions out a month ago. So I'm rocking the complete natural look now. And luckily the humidity is on my side. But life would be so much easier if I had the extensions back in. I don't have any stuff with me. So because I've had it said to me before, it'd be like, I travel, but what do I do about my hair? I'm like, that is not a good reason to not travel. However, I don't know. How do you manage with your hair traveling?
People ask me that too all the time. I have natural hair. I just wear it in an afro most of the time. And as I've traveled, I've gotten less and less dependent on products, so I used to be a person who needed like 6 different hair products. I need a conditioner, I need a leave-in conditioner, I need a certain shampoo, I need, daily cream, and I need some shea butter. But I've really pared down my routine. I just make sure that I get a conditioner that I can leave in, like a drugstore conditioner. Like seriously, herbal essences I use a lot. You can find that everywhere, and it's like $1 or $2. I buy the cheap shampoo and conditioner, and then always I have shea butter. Even if I had my mom bring me shea butter to Mexico. So if I can't find it somewhere, which nowadays you can pretty much walk into a natural body products shop and find shea butter, or just buy it online depending on where you are. So, and oil.
Yeah.
And I just ran out of, I used Jamaican black castor oil. That's my number 1 choice.
Yeah.
But I ran out of that, and I just use regular extra virgin olive oil. My hair likes that too. So I've really pared down my products, and I just let my hair do what it does. I don't try to work it into anything special. I might do a twist out now and then, but for the most part, it's just an afro with a lot of oil in it and some sort of conditioner left over, like leave-in conditioner item in there. If I want to get fancy, then I'll do some stuff. I might, look around and find a good natural hair product line in the country I'm in. Like here in England, I could get pretty much anything.
Oh, like stock up now that you're in London. Gosh, you can't. Pardon me. If you want to kind of get back into the 5 and 6 different conditioners and stuff like that, if you're in London, then there are so many shops, and you can come out over. You'll weigh down you'll use up your baggage allowance just by hair stuff alone. But I hear you on the black castor oil. I've got a bottle that I think I've got about 50 milliliters left of black castor oil. So and somebody gave me some Moroccan oil, and then I've got this other leave-in thing that it's kind of doing all right actually. So I'm not down to the bit where I'm just kind of scraping the bottom of something in a panic that there isn't going to be anything. And also the humidity kind of helps keep everything together as well, which and also everything grows so quickly. So I'm actually quite happy with the fact that everything's just kind of abundantly shooting out of my nails are growing at an amazing rate. My hair's growing at an amazing rate, which this time of year is usually when it would be all falling out in the UK, So it's nice to see a February and have an abundance of locks and so forth. And you spoke about dating as well, dating on the road. Speak on that.
So dating, when I'm traveling is more fun, I feel like, than dating when I'm home. I feel, because I guess there's no expectation and there's no pressure, right? Because I'm not going to even be in the country in 2 months. So who cares how this date turns out, in the long run. So it's easier to date and not feel the pressure of, oh my gosh, is this going to be a relationship? Is this going to, So it's like a fun activity instead of instead of drudgery, like it is kind of for me at home. And I date on apps, even though people, joke about Tinder. It's easy, Tinder, you swipe left, you swipe right. It's really easy. I've used a couple other apps before, but honestly, Tinder is the most, out of the ones that I've used, it's the easiest to get to a country and find matches, So I do that. It depends. There's been a different, mostly the men that I've been dating in different places are other expats, other travelers. It's been a little difficult dating locals when I travel, especially when I was in Asia and even in South Africa, because like I said, I'm spotted as an American, and it's not about, let's get to know her. Sometimes it can be about, let's see if she's see if she's interested in 90 Day Fiance. Let's see if she can get me a fiance visa, if I can get a green card to the US, Right. So in some places it's a little dodgy, but for a lot of it, it's just, another way to meet other expats, other travelers, other, people who are interested in the same kind of stuff that you are, and go out and have a drink and a conversation without feeling like a tremendous amount of pressure to be, compatible, to become like something. But it's been pretty fun. It's been more fun than bad, but I have had some experiences where I'm like, ugh, this is just as bad as at home. dating can be awful. It's not, ugh.
Yeah. That's the thing. There's the good, you might be miles away from where you live, but then there is the everyday reality of you do meet idiots wherever you go. Yes.
They're everywhere.
They're allowed on the planes too. And is there anything when you're away? Do you ever miss anything about where you're from?
I miss having someone. So I miss my family, but I don't really get homesick. I just miss having someone to sit around and talk with who knows me. I haven't done a lot of traveling with people that I really know. Of course, like I said, I travel alone, but then, you make friends and you meet new people, but it's always new people, it's never someone who knows you and who you can really unload to, or, just really let it all hang out. And so I do miss that at times. But then I just go home. That's another good thing about this kind of life. You can come and go as you choose. And so then I just go home and get some of that, or try to invite them to come visit me, and recharge in that way. And then there are certain foods that I really miss when I travel. French toast is hard to get in a lot of places. It's really hard. So there's certain foods that I miss. But I feel like what I'm gaining is more than what I'm missing, when I travel. And I don't feel, if I got to the point where all the stuff that I miss about home was outweighing all the stuff that I'm enjoying about traveling, I would go back home in a heartbeat. I don't want to feel like it's a drain, to be out. It's fun. I'm doing it because it's my dream. I'm not doing it because I have to. Are you feeling that? Are you starting to feel like, oh, I miss being home?
Do you know that at the moment, I would say the only thing that I miss is just the ability to find decent clothes. Because because there's just going to be, I mean, you're in a different country, so obviously the resources that they use to make their clothes and the styles are going to be very different. And I have a particular way that I like to dress. One, to be honest, it's the clothes that I brought out here anyway. The fabrics are way too heavy. Even some of the lighter things are way too heavy to be wearing on a daily basis. So I found that I've had to just wear what you would wear to travel. But I miss the thing that I would say I miss, but not enough to get on a plane and like call it a day, is I just miss indulging in fashion, because that's one thing that I really, really enjoyed. So I just get my fix by, you know, looking at the fashion blogs and things like that and seeing what is actually happening in that, because that, I think, on a day-to-day basis, it just wouldn't be practical in terms of just comfort and moving around to be wearing those things. But I do miss wearing those things. So if I was to say that anything that I miss, would be that. Things like music, TV, not even TV, because like things like Netflix, you can stay up to date with everything else, because you know, as long as you've got an internet connection, you can keep up to date with pretty much everything that's happening there. I can speak to friends. So right now, at the moment, it's just something as pretty frivolous as, you know, not being able to wear exactly what I want to wear, but then the weather doesn't permit me to dress like that. It's just me not being able to wear those things. And then every now and again, I just really wish that there was a Waitrose or a Marks and Spencer's that I could pop into, because I miss those things. Have you been there now that you're in the UK? Have you tried either of those shops? Because the food is exceptional.
Oh, okay. I have a Marks and Spencer's right down the street from the house that I just got to. I just got here the day before yesterday, and I haven't had to do any grocery shopping or anything yet.
Ooh.
But she pointed out the Marks and Spencer's.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll probably go tomorrow.
Go to the food. Even if it's the small one, they'll usually just have a food hall. But Marks and Spencer's is one of the kind of big names of. It's like a department store, and there's usually like a few in every city, but their food they've just always been known for their quality food. They do a lot of kind of ready meals and things like that, but the quality is really good. You pay a little bit more than you would do in a regular supermarket, but it's so worth it. I miss Marks and Spencer's, and Waitrose is another good one as well. If you see a Waitrose, you know, pop in a Waitrose, and just even if you just walk around, you'll get the idea. You see the food is good. You know, it's easy to go in there for one thing and come out with a trolley of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, Marks and Spencer's food is totally delicious. I want to ask you the Her Conversations questions now. So the first question is, what is the best piece of advice a woman has ever given to you?
I'm going to give two.
Cool.
Jillian Michaels she was a trainer on The Biggest Loser TV show. I don't know her, and she wasn't talking to me directly, but the advice that she gave to one of her clients on the show just hit me like a thunderbolt. She said, when you get a flat tire, you don't go out and poke holes in all the rest of your tires. You fix it and you drive on. And I was finding in my life that at that time, when something would go wrong, I would just deep dive into the worst possible place. You know, if I didn't get a promotion that I wanted, I would like quit the job, like seriously quit and move to another company. Or, you know, if something didn't go my way, I was really sabotaging myself. And this was years ago. And so she said it on the show, and I turned my entire life philosophy around. Like, I noticed that that's what I was doing. When something went wrong, I was making sure that it was like wrong. If something went bad, I was making it the worst possible situation, you know, that it could be, instead of just fixing it and driving on. So that was wonderful advice that she didn't give to me, but I'm going to count it as advice that someone gave to me. And then my mom is just a good person. Like, she just has a good heart. Her advice is always to give, you know, she's a giving person by nature. And like I said, it's something that I have to work on, but seeing her not only give me that advice, but live out that advice is a wonderful example for me. It's, you know, a wonderful example. You don't know my mom, but Jillian Michaels is famous. So I figured I could slip two in there.
That's all right. But, you know, mums are famous as well. You know,
Yes.
they've got as much stature, if not more, than anyone who's been on TV. You know.
Good. Okay.
It's perfectly fine. And which woman would you say represents higher energetic resonance to you?
Right now, I'm listening to the audiobook of Becoming Michelle Obama.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. And I love her so much. I feel like she's like my best friend. I don't know her and I haven't met her, but I feel like she's my best friend. And she's really showing in her book how to live your life. And that's something that really, that really speaks to me. So many people out there take other people's expectations for them and wear them, like their own. But she's really shown how to live her life through her story and how she has used things that have happened to her life to find her own path instead of just living, fulfilling other people's expectations for her. She's also shown how to live a life of gratitude and grace, and how to work for other people, how to use your voice to speak for other people. And I don't think you can resonate any higher than to give your life, your time to people who are in need of it. So she's I'm like a Michelle Obama stan. I'm a super fan of hers. And, I think she's a great example.
She is. I listened to that book as well. As a traveler, Audible is the best. And one, it was so good because there was so much of it as well. And she read it herself, which was great. Yes. And I get what you say is she has that appeal of being like the best friend that you need, or the big sister, or that knowledgeable cousin, and the reaction that she gets to any arena that she walks in. I mean, did you just see she appeared on stage with Alicia Keys and Jennifer Lopez and like Jada Pinkett Smith and Lady Gaga at the Grammys, and individually the women can command a great reaction in themselves, but then she just said 2 words and people lost their minds.
Over the top. That's right. Her genuine spirit comes out. There's no pretense. It's just her spirit. You see it. You can see her kindness, her loving kindness, the way she treats other people and the way she treats herself. Well she treats herself. It just comes out of her, and other people respond to that. It's just other people are really drawn to it.
It'll be interesting to see what role she adopts, because the world's not going to let her hide now. It's not possible to not have somebody like that, and we need figures like that in just in that space, in that public space, that can remind us all to do and be a bit better, and inspire us to kind of be our own Michelle Obama in our community as well. So I'm with you on that. She's like, everyone's Michelle. Like she's your best friend. She just seems like the kind of person that you could go and sit and have coffee, tea with, and speak about whatever. And she'd be cool with it. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get to do that. You and I will get a chance to sit down and talk with her one day.
It's not beyond the realms of impossibility though, because she just seems so down to earth. It's like, it seems easily done that you could, could bump into her. She just, even though it's like, I'm not walking this, well, she's not in Washington anymore, but it doesn't seem impossible that you wouldn't meet her and she wouldn't be welcoming. She just seems to understand. And also what I like about her is the fact that she understands her own power and kind of just opens up into it as well. And not that she would abuse it, but there are other women who have been in her position that maybe haven't understood the position that they hold at that time, whether it's because they just were too afraid of it or they just didn't have the vision for it, but she just got it. She
Yes.
just got it and she stepped into it, and God bless her, I love her. And so what is your favorite self-care ritual practice?
My, I'm stuttering because it seems weird, but I really love to just sit and fit. I don't know that it's visualize. I guess it would be visualize. I don't know that people would call this self-care either, but it's something that I do. Because like I said, I'm really good at spending time alone. I'm a daydreamer by nature, but I really love to just sit and visualize what the next thing is for me, or even the thing after the next thing, or the thing that's 10 years away from the next thing. It really helps me to feel like I'm on a path and I'm not just floating around free. And it helps me to get to a place mentally before I get there physically. You can't, it's hard to see yourself doing something if you've never seen it, you know? And so even like with travel, sometimes before I took the gap year, I would just sit and picture myself doing the things that I wanted to do, visualize myself bathing. I wanted to bathe elephants in Thailand. And I did that in Chiang Mai, which is something that you should do. And so I wanted to picture that. So I would just sit and visualize myself doing it. And it helped me get to the point where my gap year became a reality. If I hadn't done these things, if I hadn't taken the time to see myself in this other place, then maybe I wouldn't have been able to put the money away. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to actually make the travel arrangements. But because I'd already taken the time to visualize it, to create it in my mind, it made it so much easier to create it in the real world. And it made it not just easier, but more, I put more impetus on me to actually do it instead of just dreaming about this is something that I'm going to do in the future. Made it a goal that I really wanted to work on.
No, that's amazing. I think visualization is highly important, and really putting yourself in that place and feeling it, that's what brings it to you. So much about visualization, the power of it is so not appreciated. When I've been looking over, like kind of going through doing like digital cleanups and looking back, that years ago I'd kind of put on my list that I wanted to go to Bali and certain things like that, and I'd plans that I'd made, and it kind of went out of my mind. But I realized at one point I was really focusing on doing that and making plans. And when I found this, it was like a retreat that I wanted to spend some time out here doing. I'm here and I'm doing it. I didn't even realize it. So I think visualization pulls it to you. And like you say, it kind of makes things start to fall in place. And because I know now, because I realize the power of visualization and putting it into my mind, that's why there's like a couple of other things that I want to do that I'm starting to plan now. And it's not even that I know how I'm going to get there. If I was going to sit down and go, right, have I put enough aside for that to happen? All I'm doing is kind of looking at the areas. Like today I was like thinking about another place that I'd probably like to go to in a few months' time. And I just started to look on booking.com, just to look at the hotels and the map, get a map of the area, like a Google map or something, and just start to kind of work out the way that the streets work, look at what the airport looks like, and just get an idea and just start to know the environment visually before I get there, so that when I do get there, it's like, oh, okay, it's just, it doesn't feel so strange, really. It just feels like another place. So visualization is super important. It's a good one. No one's ever mentioned that one before. Thank you.
Sure. I'm not into a lot of stuff, like I said, my hair routine is basic, and my skin routine is basic. But I do believe that we all women, we all need to just take time to take care of ourselves, whatever that looks like. That's what it looks like for me, sitting around daydreaming and visualizing and doing Google searches of things. But whatever that thing is, it's so important. I don't want to underemphasize it. It should be, that should be built into your life, your daily or weekly life, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, I'm a constant daydreamer from day dot. I wouldn't be here otherwise if I didn't spend time living in my head, and just traveling around and just getting the feel for other things. So, yeah, no, a great one, and a lot of the talks that I've been listening to as well are very much about daydreaming, which is great to daydream because that gets you there, but like conscious visualization, especially when you're trying to call things in. I've been recently just really listening to a lot of Reverend Ike. I don't know if you remember him. He was an evangelist preacher from the 70s, 80s, maybe. I don't know his time frame, but he was very much about, he taught the church, and he spoke to Black America in particular. He faced a lot of criticism, really, because instead of kind of preaching the Bible as hell and damnation and the way that religion is usually presented to people, he was about visualize yourself being rich, visualize yourself having the money, visualize yourself being healthy and well, and this is what the Bible wants you to do. And he would always put people at the end, he called it like a visualization prayer treatment, and he taught them how to visualize, and he taught them how to, it's amazing stuff. It's like, if you and he was very charismatic. He made no apologies for dressing well, for making his church look like a palace, for driving Rolls Royces, because he was like, Jesus didn't want us to come here to be poor. It was all about experiencing life and living the life that you wanted. He'd even do one where, if you want to have a winter vacation, visualize yourself on the vacation. That's what he was all about that. And as with always, people didn't get him because he was way, way ahead of his time in the way that he was talking and the way that he was teaching. But so many people are using that kind of teaching now in terms of visualization and meditation and all of that, and law of attraction. He was talking about it years and years ago. So, that's something that I've been just like catching up on him, because it's just like one of those people that, there have been people in history that you've been aware of and never really gone into them. And that's the beauty of the internet as well. Yeah. Is that when you want to do some heavy research on a person and really understand them, you can really tap into what they were about and understand their place in history. He's not getting the props that he deserves right now, but yeah, you're talking about visualization. He's very much about that. So what's coming up next for you?
I am working on a course to help other people plan their own grown-up gap year. If they want to take a year, or even if it's a summer, take some time off and do it. Take time, quit their job, travel. So that course is coming up, but that will be happening starting in the summer. Until then, I'm continuing to blog. Again, my blog is Vaycarious.com, and I'm on Instagram a lot. Instagram is my favorite thing, my favorite social media thing. So I'm just doing that. I'll be in London until, I don't remember now. I don't know. I'll be in London for a couple of months. I'm going to head over to Amsterdam briefly before I go back home for the summer.
Nice. And just before you give out your online addresses and things like that, what would you like to impart to anyone who is thinking, oh, I'd love to travel, but and thinking of all the things that they are seeing as obstacles, as reasons why they can't do it, just to kind of inspire them to understand that if they want to travel long term, how doable it is and what they would benefit from, and what it's done for you, and why you would suggest it to anyone to do at any age, in any circumstance, like we said with the children and so forth.
Yeah. If you have a desire to do it, then do it. Like, it's not as though you have to say, oh, I wish I could, or I wish I had. If you have the desire to do it, get creative. Like I said, I spent the summer and fall in Mexico, and I spent between $300 and $500 a month. So get creative on how to make it work for you. Whether you think your obstacle is money or kids or whatever, I know that there are obstacles and that they are real, but that doesn't mean that obstacle doesn't have to be a total barrier, right? The obstacle is just something that you have to find a way to work around or work over. And so get creative, contact other people who are doing it, contact Carol May, contact me, find out how do we do it, and make it work for you. I would, it's the kind of thing that you can unfortunately put off for too long. So if you want to travel, if you want to see the world while you're in a healthy body, there unfortunately there's a deadline, right? Like there's a time when you want to get it done, and we don't know when that deadline is going to be. That's the tricky part. So don't continue to put it off and then just think that, oh well, it'll make itself happen when it happens. Go ahead and be creative, put some thought into it, ask some questions, ask around, find out who else is doing it and how. And make it work for you, because it's only going to work out for the best. It's only going to be a wonderful experience. It's the best. I'm so glad that I made the decision back in 2015 to get started. And I'm so glad that I'm still doing it. And I'm so glad anytime somebody else reaches out to me and says, oh, guess what? Guess what I'm doing? I'm working on this plan. Guess what I did? I already put in my 2 weeks notice. It's such a wonderful thing. And so I just hope that more people learn that it doesn't have to be, it's not only for certain people. It's not only for wealthy people or for people in their 20s, or it's for anybody. If you want to do it, I hope that you take a chance, get creative, and go ahead and do it.
Perfect. Where can we find you online?
Online, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Vaycarious, Vaycarious. I know it's a lot, but that's me. My blog is Vaycarious.com, and you can contact me on the blog. Like if you contact me through it has my email address is on there, Stephanie@Vaycarious.com. I'll email you back. I love talking about travel and gap years, and I'll meet up with you. If you're in the same place that I'm in, we'll get together. We'll have some food or some coffee or some drinks, because that's what I love to do.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Her Conversations, Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Carol May. It's been wonderful.
Thanks again to Stephanie for joining me on this episode of Her Conversations, and thank you for listening. You can discover more about me by visiting my website, carolmaywhittick.com. That's carolmaywhittick.com. Also, I want to tell you about Her Life Academy, which is a monthly instruction and inspiration platform for awakening women. This is going to be created for you to magnify your spirituality, your sensuality, and your soul, and live in higher energetic resonance. Now, initially, I wanted to launch this in February of 2019, which is where we're at now. We're in the last few days, and due to illness I realised I'm going to have to postpone that, so it's looking like Her Life Academy is actually now going to launch at the beginning of April this year. You can still find out more about Her Academy if you visit my website for more details. Sign up now to gain early bird access and offers. You can also find me on social media. On Facebook I'm under Carol May Whittick. My Instagram name is Kazmick, that's CAZMICK, and also you can follow Her Life Academy at Her Life Academy on Instagram. I'd also appreciate if you can share any episodes that really resonate with you, liking, adding a comment, subscribing to the platform that you're part of. All of this helps to build up Her Life Academy and also Her Conversations. So thank you so much for listening, and until next week, take care. Bye.